Once you've done all of that, and that's all there, then you can start looking for that traffic. But don't look for that traffic just anywhere. Look for that traffic in the audiences that you're wanting to talk to, right? How many times have you ever been asked, like, hey, we're doing a round table of business owners. You ever get those on LinkedIn?
Sure.
Have you ever heard those?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Over and over again, right? And I'm like, who's in this room? A bunch of people who want to chat? They're randos. How do I know that hour spent learning who you are and taking up brain space, taking up my calendar space, taking up my energy for the day to maybe get to know some people who might be? Or do I go find stages of people who are at a certain echelon, in a certain industry, having a certain pain? That's where I need to get my message. That's where I put my energy, my time, and my money, getting those people to my website, right? Get those people in my ecosphere, right? My ecosystem, sorry. Get those people to engage with me,
right?
Follow me, read my newsletters. All of those things matter, but only to the right people.
Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Michael Buzinski. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
So Michael is, well, first of all, he's a lifelong entrepreneur. That's what your bio says anyway. You've been doing this all your life. You're a digital marketer. You're a best-selling author. You got a book out there. And I was actually really impressed. I was checking out your book, and this guy called Mike Mikalowicz, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, endorses your book. He even created a video for you. They said it's a must read. I actually read his book, Profit First, a few years ago.
Love that book. And
it really solidified my thinking around paying myself first and how to structure all that stuff. So, that's awesome. So that's who we got here today, folks. And, but we're going to have a conversation about we're going to probably talk about key performance indicators today and how to market, how to do all that stuff. But before we do that, the first time we have somebody on the podcast, we like to get to know you a little bit. And so what we'd like to learn is kind of your origin story, how you got started, how you became an entrepreneur, how who influenced you, what was that journey like, and how did you end up to where you are today doing the awesome things you're doing in the world. So with that.
Wow. How long is this show?
Well, we got about, I don't know. We got all afternoon.
No. So when I say lifelong entrepreneur, my first entrepreneurial venture was with my grandfather. I lived on a farm in Northern California, a little family farm, nothing big. And we had walnut trees, and the walnuts would fall in the fall. And it was up in Chico, California. So some people know where that's at. Mm-hmm. And so he made a deal with me. He says, hey, if you fill up these gunny sacks, I'll give you $1.25 for every gunny sack you fill up. And so I would spend my falls picking up enough walnuts to then buy my family, my sister, my two parents. I'd have just enough money to buy those 3 presents for Christmas. So that was my first venture into making money. Yes. Yeah. And a couple of, I won't get too far into some of the lessons my grandfather taught me then, because then we'll be here all day. But I got into music at an early age and was actually exposed to professional, the professional musician space at the age of 13. And so that was an interesting space there, which then prompted me, when that all fell apart, I went out on my own and I taught myself how to play musical instruments and taught my friends how to play musical instruments so I could have bands. And then so I started booking bands. Our first gig was at San Francisco State University, and our payment were these giant chocolate chip cookies and Snapple. The old, I don't know if they still make Snapple or not, but it's an old iced tea brand. Yeah. I know, yeah. It's a fake iced tea brand. It's not even real iced tea. But anyway, flavored water. Anyway, but, you know, so ever since I was 13 and a half, I had a W-2 job until I joined the service at 22. I still did music. I was basically a part-time working musician for 15 years. Worked up through a couple of different.
Sorry, can I ask you about what?
Go ahead.
What did you play? What instrument?
Oh, I played a lot of things, mainly guitar, and I was usually the lead guitar and lead singer of the bands I was in. Okay. But then I play bass. I play a little bit of drums. I tinker around on things like keyboards. I played the jazz trombone. Was the first music instrument that I played, but I've played the trumpet. French horn, tuba, stuff like that. I
smile because I trombone was my instrument
there you go.
when I was growing up.
Nice. Fellow trombonists. All right, there we go. Yes. So, so I ran up a couple of different corporate ladders in sales and marketing. I got started really early in that, like at the age of 16. I was working for what is now called Ticketmaster. The headquarters was actually in Concord, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I worked for Olin Mills Portrait Studios. So if you're old enough to know what that is, you're about my age. So that's back in the day when they had there was telemarketers that would call and offer you a free 8x10 and a free photography sitting. So my job was to make sure that each of the studios took really good pictures and then show them how to get them to spend more than free. And so there's marketing and sales in that. Anyway, so I also worked for Guitar Center. So those are like my three big corporations that I worked in, kept hitting glass ceilings. So I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to go into the Air Force, a third generation Air Corps. Grandfather was in World War II. Both my parents were in the Korean War. Wow. I served through the Desert War, 9/11, stuff like that. So
thanks for your service.
When I got out, thank you. When I got out, I was unemployable. I was a failed musician with then trained in a job that no civilian counterpart to it. So, all right. So what am I going to do? My love was music. And one of my friends says, I don't think you'll become a rock star because I'm not tall enough. I'm not dark enough, not handsome enough, nor am I talented enough. Right. So, but he said, you'd be a really good manager of and a promoter of other musicians. And I said, I don't want to do that. But what I did enjoy was audio engineering. So the first iteration of my business in 2005 when I got out was actually in media production. And it wasn't until I quickly realized that surviving off of starving musicians was a horrible business plan. So my second love is small business. I don't know if it's my love for the underdog or, the small guy, whatever it is. It's something that's always talked to me. And so I started doing media production for the marketing of small businesses. And we grew that into a multi-million-dollar creative agency over a span of 13 years.
Amazing. And
then about 5 years ago, I got tired of the brick and mortar and the agency life, and I shut it all down, walked away, and started Buzzworthy Marketing. And so now I run a 100% virtual marketing firm, and we serve the needs of fractional consultants and B2B service providers.
So explain what a fractional consultant is.
Fractional consultants, there are a lot of flavors of it. The main fractional consultant will be a C-suite, a temporary C-suite, or a fractional C-suite placement. So I'm a fractional CMO. So I'll go into small businesses that are usually in the seven figures and multi-seven figures, all the way up through, the 8-figure mark. We usually say 1 to 20 million. For that. And so we act as a C-suite executive in that company, but we're only there a fraction of the time.
Right.
So my systems allow me to do that. And there's fractional CFOs, CEOs, CTOs, everything that you'd ever heard a chief of, you can do those. But consultants can, they don't necessarily have to be a C-suite consultant to be a fractional. I've got friends who just do SEO, and they're a fractional SEO. For companies, those types of things. So a fractional consultant is somebody who comes in, runs things part-time, and or is specific to strategies. The other side is a B2B services. Most B2B service-based businesses work on a fractional space. It's an exploding market, an industry, the fractional space, that's basically tied to the consultancy, just at a higher level.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, somebody just recently recommended that I get a fractional.
There you go. And that's why. Fractionals are really good at coming in, cleaning house, setting up systems, and then a lot of times what we call micro fractionals, they're done. It's a project work. They're not ongoing, right? There's also interim fractionals where they'll come in, clean house, get everything set up, and then help hire a permanent person. And then there's fractionals like me where we come in before they can afford a C-suite of my caliber. And then I will work that company. I will work with that company. Me and my team will work with that company until they are ready for a full-time CMO.
Right.
And sometimes they never do because they don't want to get that big, or they realize that, and for me specifically, they don't need a full-time CMO. Right. But maybe there's their fractional COO that can grow out of that much faster than grow out of their fractional CMO.
It makes a lot of sense. It seems like it would be something perfect for a small business, even just from a budget perspective, but also just
people are realizing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
they're realizing.
Looking at my agency, like there's a lot of things that I do just very part-time that I could give to somebody else, but it's not a full-time job.
Exactly. No.
You want to hire for it.
Sometimes it's not even a part-time job.
Yeah. Right.
Like
an hour or two.
Right. And so then that's when you get into those virtual assistants. And a lot of people think of virtual assistant as just somebody who makes appointments, reads emails and stuff like that. No, my VAs do a lot of that, the sub part-time stuff.
Yep.
And so they're technically like a micro fractional, right?
Yeah.
So they have projects that they do, right? They get that done. My executive assistant, that's different, right? That person makes sure on a day-to-day basis that I'm getting taken care of, right? But yeah,
that's a good.
But people are realizing now with this our virtual world, even if you have a brick and mortar, having those outside resources don't take up desks. They don't need another phone line. That a lot of them don't even need the regular benefits of a regular employee. So they pay for themselves. I mean, for somebody to hire me full time, the market would pay me at least $300,000 to $350,000 in a base pay. That's not going to be my bonuses, my medical, my FICA, my profit sharing, all that other stuff. And you're talking right around $500,000 a year for me to do that. I don't want to do it anyway, so it's okay.
Thank goodness.
I like being a fractional because of the variety, the challenges.
Right.
I've done marketing for over 1,200 companies.
That's amazing. That's great experience because you get a lot to bring to the table working with that many different organizations or whatever. That was just it's interesting because I know there's a lot of small businesses out there that are like they're overwhelmed. They don't know what the next step. They want I can't hire somebody either, because I don't have the money or it's not a full-time position. How do I do it? But you can scrap together different things like this. You can get VAs, you can get, I'm actually, in a new agency I started to work with. I partner with agencies, and she just sent me an email 2 days ago. She's like, so I think it might be time for me to get a VA. Do you have one? I'm like, yeah. And this is how I did it, but I was kind of that, she had no idea, where do I go? Upwork? I'm like, no, that's not where I got it.
That's different. That's different. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's interesting, as you evolve, as your business evolves, that you have such a variety of options like that. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. And we didn't have those, I've been in business for 18 years. Just 18 years ago, just 15 years ago, 10 years ago, you didn't have as many options as we do now.
Yeah.
Right. It really has become a very small world. I have a staff of 8, now, and 2 of them are in the Philippines. Now they're not client facing or anything like that. They're internal workings, but I'm telling you right now, the impact we have on their life and the impact they have on our business, the mutual benefits are so big, right? And I'm not going to say that it's easy to find a good VA, overseas VA, right? For many, many years, I was like, I only want to work with US based. You know, I'm a patriot, blah, 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 blah. But nowadays, because of our inflation and basically the BS, if you will, that has been taught to the younger generations of like, hey, listen, I'm not working for anything less than $100,000. And in some states, that's like minimum wage to them, right? Because they can't get anything, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of world events and domestic events that have pushed us into this space. COVID was another one that really pushed us into this space. And so now I'm a lot more open to it because there is a lack of talent in the United States. There's not enough talent in the United States for all of the jobs out there.
Well, like you said, it's the money. It's
and then the money on top of it.
When you're doing taxes, it's a lot easier when you have an international. I have an international team as well. I'm split between Philippines and India. But it's first of all, they can be, a couple of them are client facing. They can be very good as long as your client's okay with, you know, they understand what's, you know, that they're, you know, from another country and, you know, how communication works and stuff. But it's amazing. And they are just as talented. They're humans. You know, they're still humans. They still can be talented, even though they're not in the U.S. But yeah, it's amazing. And it's another great stepping stone to maybe hiring. Like I still plan to hire U.S. someday, but all my team is international at the moment.
It depends on what you're hiring for, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people forget that you can't just hire anybody, U.S. or otherwise, unless you have systems that they can follow.
Right.
So I always tell the entrepreneurs I work with, like, they're like, oh, I'll just hire somebody to do that. It's like, well, do you have a standard operating procedure, on how you do just that? Well, no. Then how do you expect them to do it? Well, I'll train them. I was like, so you're going to spend the next 90 days babysitting somebody.
Yeah.
When you could have just gave them, you know, probably an hour to hour and a half of your time at the beginning, a set of documents of how they can do their job, when they should be executing these, and then let them, you know, learn on the job.
Yeah.
And then all you have to do is answer questions. And so many people don't realize that it really is that it can be that complicated. And it also can be that simple. If you have the documentation, great. Go for it. You've identified their objectives, the steps to achieve those objectives, and here's some frequently asked questions and maintaining those and the troubleshooting and all that other stuff that goes along with it. The more that you can give them, the better, right?
Right.
But then you also then have to take into account, if you're doing overseas hiring, what is their command of the English language and how much does that impact the job they're going to do, right? People say, oh, I'll give my social media person to somebody in the Philippines. The way that English in the Philippines doesn't contextually translate 100% to English in America. They don't, because they translate it in their head in Filipino. Well, how they conjugate verbs and stuff like that in Filipino is different than in America.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, listen to some of the Australians talk sometimes. And so if you have somebody helping you with your voice, you really need to have some controls in place to make sure you don't sound like a robot, or maybe GPT or ChatGPT wrote all your stuff, because it sounds like that as well. Right. Yeah. And just like prompts into ChatGPT, your instructions to your VAs will greatly impact the quality of work that comes out of them.
Yep. Yeah. And like you said, you're hiring for the role. I mean, there's certain people I hire that are never going to talk to directly with a client or help me with content. But even the content, like it's part of, we have a process. So I'm thinking of one VA in particular, who's probably going to be listening to this because she handles all my content. But she will, you know, every morning I have content ready. She compiled the content, put the content together, the graphics, all this stuff, but I'm still going in and I'm editing it. Right. I might add my voice to it, or she's learned my voice over 3+ years, but, so it's still a team effort. It's not just give it to somebody and forget about it. Yeah. But
well, I'm sure my VA who does my podcast will be hearing this as well. And I'll tell you right now, after I think we're about maybe probably 9 months in now, and I got blessed with my VA team. And there's many episodes I never see until they have come full circle and somebody shares with me and says, "Hey, I really like what you said here." Oh, what did I say there? And I go back.
You're on to the next. You're not even thinking about what you did. Yeah. No, it's
I'm already in the next like half a season. Like, it's like we're planning, we're producing, right?
But
like,
that's the beautiful thing.
She's making sure that stuff is there. But I think you bring up a really good point, is that just because you get a VA and just because you've had them for a few years, you're still managing people.
Yeah.
Right. And people are not self-managed, right? If they're doing that type of work, they need your guidance. You are the boss still. You are delegating, not relegating, is how I say it. So many people want to relegate the responsibility.
Right.
The only people you can relegate responsibility to is your partners. And so if you're the boss and you own 100% of it, you can have leadership you're delegating to. But guess what? You're still responsible until you bring on partners. And then you share responsibility, and it's not 100% relegation.
Yeah.
Right. So my partner, she's responsible for making things happen day to day. My responsibility is to give them something to do every day to day when we sell stuff, right? Sell the services. So I'm bringing in the revenue. She's making sure we earn the revenue. It's two sides of the same coin though. Right. So we still have to work together, and your VAs are no different, right? You have a show to put together. They are responsible for producing what you put out, but you're ultimately responsible for the quality that gets out to the public.
Yeah. So, when you see a clip of this podcast, it wasn't me that did it. But she always nails it though. Like you said, there are really, really good people out there internationally. And I tell her all the time, I said, I don't know what I would do without you. I don't know. I have no idea at this point.
We would do a lot less. That's the thing. Like, people don't realize that. It's not that, sometimes when we look for VAs, we're looking for, there are VAs out there that can do it better than us. Right. And they are human. So they are learning to get better and better. I was just watching a snippet of one of my podcasts that was on YouTube. And she started putting in, B-roll and outtakes and clips and stuff. And I'm like, all right, this looks cool. This looks cool.
Yeah.
I was like, better than I have the patience to do. Right. Like, it's one to have the time, but it's another thing to have the patience to go through that process. And so, you're only as good as the people you put around you. Yeah. Right. And as a small business owner building something, sometimes it's okay to have imperfect people around you to get the things that need to get done. Because if you don't start today, you'll never have the library and the experience to get better and better and better.
True story.
Right? I remember my first time being on a podcast. It was just, not quite 2 years ago. And it was horrible. It was really bad. Like, I look back on those interviews and I'm like, golly, I've been talking in front of people for decades. And for some reason, man, I couldn't tell my life story very well. None of that stuff. Like what I told you, that truncated, that was actually a long version because you like, where did it come from type of thing. Right. That's a long version of what I usually get done in less than 2 minutes. It used to take me 10 minutes to tell that same story that I told you in probably about 4, 5. Right. So, and fumbled around with it. Right. So,
yeah, you got to kind of feel it.
Just get started and see what you like first.
Yeah, you got to kind of feel that out, and you evolve. I've started doing guesting. I think I've done like my 10th or 11th now, and it's different from being a host. This is going to be like 168 or something as a host, but as a guest, it's different. Yeah, now I'm telling my story, and like, where does it end and begin, and what's interesting about it, and how can I, depending on, and every podcast is different. Like you got some that do want the shorter, or some do want, like me, just talk all day if you want. But yeah, right. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you learn that, like when you're creating your bios, have a short bio and a long bio, so that your hosts have all of that to choose from. I have multiple headshots you can choose from: playful, professional, smiling, not quite smiling, full, 3/4 shots, chest shots, just headshots, all those stuff. That's like having all of that comes from doing it. You're not just going to start out with it all there. Right. And so, I mean, on this topic, my one piece of advice is just get started. And as you're starting, get organized, because the earlier you get organized, the faster you will get, you'll get to scale. Right. If you never get organized, you will never get to scale, because the better and more streamlined you make your process, the more you can create. Now, that streamlining and that efficiency will actually create that scale that people talk about. Without organization, there is no scale. Without methodology, there's no scale.
Right. And then, that preparation, that kind of ties in what we were talking about with VAs, like creating SOPs and stuff, and over time collecting and organizing yourself so you become more efficient over time. Awesome. We were talking about stuff we didn't even think we were going to talk about today, which is always fun. I love that.
It always happens.
Well, let's pivot a little bit let's talk about, this thing called Rule of 26. I'm very curious about this. Now that is your book title, right? What is that? I know it's a big question. It's pretty open-ended, but tell us a little bit about kind of what its essence is. And let's dive into that a little bit.
All right. So the Rule of 26 is a methodology, or basically, a methodology or strategy, I should say. And it involves 3 steps to doubling website revenue. And so the problem that I was solving when I stumbled upon the Rule of 26, because it's math. So I didn't create math. I just stumbled upon this math equation. And the problem I was solving is that people, as agencies, we deal with, clients going, well, what's my ROI? Right. And I go, well, I'm giving you, traffic. I've got eyeballs. I've got likes. I got all these things. And over the years, you realize that the only people who care about half of those KPIs are the marketers, because it makes them look good. And we call them vanity metrics for a reason, right? Because they don't actually move the revenue needle, right? Not immediately. They don't have, your likes doesn't have an immediate moving of the revenue needle. And so, for me, I'm like, I was looking through like, what are the most important KPIs and all this stuff? And you go to like Shopify and they're like 76 KPIs to your e-commerce, and HubSpot, there are 132 KPIs to your digital marketing campaigns and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm a marketer. I don't want to look at that many KPIs.
That's a lot.
And an owner doesn't even want to look at 10.
Yeah.
Right. They've got one KPI, revenue. That's what they want to see. Their second KPI is how much revenue did it take or how much cash flow did it take to get that revenue? Is it profitable revenue? Right. And so I boiled this all down and found 3 KPIs that had the most effect on revenue, and they have a leveraging effect when you use them all together. And that was traffic, conversion rate, and your average revenue per client. If you increase each of these KPIs by only 26%, you will get a compounded effect of 100% more revenue coming from your website. And I'm like, well, that's something anybody could understand.
That's significant.
And if they don't believe me, they can do the math. And you were saying you were going through my my reviews. There are accountants in some of those reviews. They're like, I did the math. It works.
That's awesome. Yeah. So traffic, conversions, and average revenue per client.
Average revenue per client.
Interesting. So so where do you start? Like on a website? You start with the
depends
website.
On where you're at.
What's that?
I said, it depends on where you're at.
So you start with where you're at. You got to do an audit of what you got going on right now. and figure out.
Right. So like when you're first getting started, one of the things that people will jump into is like, well, I just need more traffic.
Right.
Well, do you need more traffic, or do you have enough traffic to make, to do an audit on your website to see if it's actually converting? Right. Because if you don't have to go buy more traffic or expend more energy to get more traffic, then, and really all you have to do is find out why your website's not converting. Every percentage point that you are above that, everything given the same, you're making more money, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're at 1% conversion rate, which means 1 out of every 100 people come to your website, contact you and become a qualified lead. Okay. That's your conversion rate. All you have to do is increase it by 0.26%, just over 0.25%. It's not a lot. And this is what I love about the rule. We're not talking about these sweeping, huge changes, right? They're about the small, incremental changes that you can do. Where I find most people have, or most business owners have, they have an identity crisis. Okay. And when I say that, I mean that they don't know who they want to do business with. They can't identify their ideal client or their ideal prospects. They're just saying, anyone who will listen to me, I will tell you what I can do for you, right? Instead of saying, you know what, I have the best success and the best time serving X. I'm a fractional consultant, right? And I love other fractional consultants. They think like me, right? We're problem solvers. So, and when they have a problem and they hear that somebody has a solution, they listen. Ooh, yay! That's always awesome, right? When your clients actually listen to you. Yeah. But they have a unique story. Every single one of us has a unique story, right? Every consultant has a unique story. Why they're there, what they're good at, why are they good at, and who are they good at it for, right? Those are unique. And so to me, that's really good. And that becomes what we call the perfectly profitable prospect, the P3. Okay. And so a lot of times when I'm working with clients through the rule of 26 is we start over here with the average revenue per client. They're like, well, if I'm not going to have any revenue, what's going on? Well, the thing is when you identify how to bill what you're worth, 9 times out of 10, you start identifying who's willing to pay you what you're worth. And I guarantee you a majority of the listeners right now could probably take a look at what they're billing current clients, and they went to their best clients and said, hey, you know what? I might need to raise my rates by, say, 26%. And their best clients are going to go, I was wondering when that was going to happen. I felt like I was taking advantage of you. You weren't charging me enough. And when you identify somebody like that, you now have this little golden nugget that you can and run with. It's called market research. And most of the best market research is sitting on your client roster right now. And the second best are the people who have recently left your client roster in the last year. Those are the two groups of people. If you can talk to them, you will get all the answers you need to know on how to bill what you're worth. And if that equals up another 26%, I have one client, we 5x'd what he was offering.
No kidding.
And he sold more of it.
No kidding.
He sold more at 5x than he did when he first signed on with me.
You increase the perceived value of what he was offering. Is that part of it?
Yes. Yeah. And who he was offering it to. Yeah. He was charging too little for his ideal client to care. Oh, that's too cheap. It must not be worth my time.
Yeah.
Right. So he started billing what he was worth. Right. And he had some guarantees with that, which was great. You don't have to, as a service provider, you do not have to guarantee output. Right. I'm a marketer. I can't in good conscience guarantee. Right? Marketers who guarantee things are giving you things that are not worth putting energy, time, and money towards, because it's not moving the needle enough.
Right.
Right. Oh yeah, I'll get you that 30% increase in your conversion rates, and that's all you're doing. One tactic is not changing your business. Right. A strategy could. Right. That's where the Rule 26 comes and says, hey, we'll double that revenue. It's math. I don't have to guarantee anything. We just look at these three things and we focus on, if you get what you focus on. So if I give you a narrow focus, we're going to do a lot more in a lot less time, right? So when you've identified that and you've started asking the questions, guess what? All of those answers are writing the content you need to put on your website to increase your conversion rate.
Right.
Right? And you're also repelling people who are not qualified to work with you, or the type of people you don't want to work with. Holy cow. Now I don't have to spend so much time on the phone telling people no. Right. I don't want to work with you. I was just in a meeting the other day. I drove 2 hours to be in a 45-minute meeting in Washington, D.C., right? I thought it was going to be a bigger meeting. Long story. But there were 3 other consultants there. All of us were fractionals. One was a fractional CFO for e-commerce, right? And he had an identity problem. He wanted to be everything to everyone. Even though he was a fractional CFO, he's like, oh, and I do a little bit of this and I do a bit of that. And he's like all over the place. I'm like, oh, I could help you. But then I kept listening to him. He wasn't listening to the cues in the room. I'm not doing business with that guy. Because even if he gave me his money, he would never listen to me because he's not a listener. So that's not a perfectly profitable prospect for me, right? Because anyone that I meet that's in the industry that I want to work in, right? They're a prospect. Mm-hmm. Now I got to qualify whether they're a good prospect. Right. Are they a perfectly profitable prospect, right? Are they willing to pay me what I'm worth? Are they going to listen to the advice I give? And are they going to implement the methodologies that I know will work for them? Right? If I had those 3 things, man. And so as I'm doing my marketing research and I'm listening to people who don't listen, I start working that into my content, right? Why don't marketers work for some people? Because they don't listen. Oh crap, I have a problem listening. I'm not gonna reach out to Buzz because he doesn't like when people don't listen, and I know I don't listen. Those people know who they are, right? Yeah. They're called ask holes. They ask the questions, but they don't listen, right? So once you've done those 2 things right there, guess what? You've just increased your revenue by 52%, right? You have over 50% more revenue just by fixing those 2 things. And you haven't had to do anything different. You haven't had to create a new product. You haven't had to do more work. Nothing. Just boom, done, right? And a lot of times that ARCP can be applied to your current clients, right? Upgrade them, cross-sell them, upsell them, whatever it is. Find that value, bring it into the fold with the people. You don't even have to sell it to anybody new. You can increase without even touching your website, you can increase your revenue, right? Now, some people say, well, no, I can't do that. Well, then you have an identity crisis. You don't know how much you're worth. Everybody's worth 26% more. Do you think Tony Robbins stopped when he went, oh, you know what? People are paying me $30,000 an hour to just talk. You think he stopped there? No. Oh, you know what?
Maybe I'll try.
I'm bringing a lot of value. I'm going to do $500,000 an hour. You want to go talk to Mark Cuban? It's $300,000 just to have, I want to say a half an hour. I might be wrong. Smoke. Could be as much as an hour. So don't quote me. Yeah. But I want to say it's a half an hour of his time is $300,000. Do you know why he charges that? It's not not to make it worth his time. It's to make it worth your money. Because one, you got to make, he's worth that, right? If he's going to give it charitably, he'll give it charitably. You don't have to pay for it, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is this, if you can't afford $300,000 to pay him for his advice, you're not ready for the advice he's about to give you.
Right.
Yeah. So when people say, well, Buzz, I can't pay you what you're asking for, they're just not ready for me. And that's an identity crisis because that means you're talking to the wrong people. You've identified the wrong audience, right? So just because you think you're at the top of what you can bill, that's not that you're not worth anymore. It's that the people that you're trying to convince are not ready for you. And you need to take it one more echelon up of people that do need your help at that level. It doesn't mean you don't have to stop working for these people. Mm-hmm. It's that if you want to make 26% more, you need to find the right people to serve and add that to it. For us, we have a choose your own adventure model, right? So if you can't afford to work with me one-to-one, I have a group method. And if the group method's too much for you, we have a DIY method, right? And you can graduate up and you can graduate down. I don't care.
That's beautiful.
You know?
Yeah.
My whole goal is to help 10,000, not 1,200, 10,000 entrepreneurs out of entrepreneurial poverty. And one of the biggest things is we've got to start billing what we're worth, right? And when we start, guess what? Where we started and who we started serving, you graduate through them. You outgrow your clients. Hopefully, you get better and better what you do. And now you graduate to the bigger problem, more value, more money. Done. Once you've done all of that, and that's all there, then you can start looking for that traffic. But don't look for that traffic just anywhere. Look for that traffic in the audiences that you're wanting to talk to. Right? How many times have you ever been asked, like, hey, we're doing a round table of business owners. You ever get those on LinkedIn?
Sure.
Have you ever heard those?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Over and over again, right? And I'm like, who's in this room? A bunch of people who want to chat? They're randos. How do I know that hour spent learning who you are and taking up brain space, taking up my calendar space, taking up my energy for the day to maybe get to know some people who might be? Or do I go find stages of people who are at a certain echelon, in a certain industry, having a certain pain? That's where I need to get my message. That's where I put my energy, my time, and my money, getting those people to my website, right? Get those people in my ecosphere, right? My ecosystem, sorry. Get those people to engage with me,
right?
Follow me, read my newsletters. All of those things matter, but only to the right people. So that's the long of it.
No, that's beautiful. I've done in the last year, 2 years, I've done this. What do they call it? That's like speed dating for business people. You get in a room with like Zoom and you drop in randomly to different people. And
oh yeah, I've done those.
That can actually be, there's groups that are back because it's like you said, you don't have any idea who's in this room. Like, and most of them, they're trying to sell you something. So they're not even listening to what you're bringing to the table. So, but there are certain groups that are niche. Like I found one that's like just, they're all tech people and we're all kind of in the same realm. And, but yeah, you still got to be very conscious about, or know who you want to target, who you want to talk to.
Right.
But I love that message because that's really, really important. The one of the things that I know is challenging because it's a little scary, right? And moving, like, okay, you've been told, maybe this is the 10th time somebody said, you need to charge your value or whatever, you need to charge more. And everyone says you got to charge more, but that's scary because it's like, well, maybe I'm not making a lot, maybe I should, but I don't want to, shake things up here or lose a client or, lose the revenue I have. I've gone through that process of raising my hourly rates and raising my project pricing and doing all that. And, there were moments it's like you just hit send and you hope for the best and but it's worked out most of the time when you're with the right people. It actually does work. Yeah.
So I have a strategy that you can apply to this. So the first piece is this. A lot of us are, as you're growing, I should say, for those that are growing past our first 10 clients, you lose a client, that's 10% of your revenue, right? If it's a big client, it could be 50% of your revenue. That's really scary, right? So if you just focused on the new clients coming in and said, okay, this is going to be my new rate from our new clients. Now, the thing is this, you start getting yes at your new price, you know that you're now worth more than what your current clients are, okay? So this is my rule of thumb. Anywhere between 10 and 50 clients, this is my rule of thumb, okay? I'm sorry, 10 and 30 clients, sorry. So 10 to 30 clients, you're going to sign on 3 people at your new rates, with your new program, okay? Then you're going to go to your lowest paying client and you're going to say, hi, I love you, but the rates are going up. Now, if that person leaves, you have 3 other clients that just replaced them.
Yeah.
And now what do you have? You have more bandwidth to take on more clients. Sell 3 more and do it again. At some point, you're going to go, you know what? I ain't waiting for another 3. I need the bandwidth of my top 50%, and I'm going to let them know, hey, I want to bring you more value, and this is what we're doing now. And if they don't see the value, find them a new home.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Help them. Refer them to somebody. You know what? I love our relationship and I want the best for you. Unfortunately, my services, I think you are not ready for the direction my company's going. Just be frank with them. That's business,
Love
man.
That. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's okay. Now, I've had clients that I've had for over 13 years as a fractional. Okay. Do they pay as much as my current people? No. But those people have become family, and they also don't get everything my new clients get. So they have taken the trade-off of like, we don't need all of those things, so I don't have to give them all the things, right? So they're still paying the rate if I were to truncate their services and pay and just charge them for what they actually use, they're still paying my rates over the years, right? But if you can just add 3, drop 1, add 3, drop 1. Maybe you start adding 3, you drop 2. Doesn't matter. The thing is this, there's going to be a high percentage of those people, if you do it right, that will say, I was waiting for when this was going to happen. I thought I was getting too good of a deal. And those are going to be your lifelong clients because they're willing to grow with you. Right. And if you're performing for them and you're having conversations with them and you have a good relationship with them, they're going to understand. Right. And they're like, you know what? I would love to pay that. You are so worth that. But unfortunately, our budget's not going to do it until next year. Right. Whatever their excuse is, you have to make that judgment of whether you're going to let them suck your average revenue per client down, because that's what they're doing. The people in your bottom 20% are responsible for 80% of the low end of your ARCP, ARPC.
Okay? Or 80% of your headaches, one of the two.
There is something to be said about the fact that, the 80-20 rule is definitely there. And it usually does come from your lowest pain. They're like, well, we don't know what we're paying for. Well, you're not paying a lot, so you're not getting a lot. Like, when people tell me, well, I really need this to work if I'm going to give you this money. Well, we're in marketing, so no.
Yeah.
Right? And even when you do that, sometimes they forget. I'm investing. Investing means risk, right? Depositing means safety. Investing means risk. Depositing, you get a nominal interest in your deposit. When you invest, there is a larger upside, right? But there is also a downside with it, right? You could get 0. And I tell people all the time, like, if you can't put this money in for this amount of time and get 0 from it and walk away unscathed, except minus the money that you just lost, don't do it.
Right.
Just don't do it. Don't. It's just like going to Vegas. Don't gamble with the money you don't have. Mm-hmm. Don't borrow to market, because now you put yourself in a hole. Because whatever your market, most people try to start advertising before they're even ready, because they haven't figured out their marketing first. Marketing is everything we just talked about in the Rule 26. Those are all marketing objectives for a marketing strategy. Okay? None of that had to do with anything other than marketing. Now, in the traffic, there's going to be a point where you're like, okay, everything's steady. I've been able to organically grow my traffic by 26%, and everything stayed steady. We're good. Well, now you can start adding, you can take whatever that messaging is and start testing that in paid. But everything I just talked about is organic. Yeah. People want to throw money at Meta and Google like immediately. And it's like, unless you're a plumber or, one of the commoditized services out there that everybody needs as a B2C world. Yeah, no. You're not. It's so frustrating. There's a handful of ways to sell a plumbing service. There's an infinite amount of ways to sell a professional service.
Yeah.
Because there's an infinite amount of people that they can be targeting.
Right.
Every target needs a different message.
Right.
And every communicator has a different message. That creates an infinite amount of combinations your communication can come to.
Yeah. One of the things that really, what you just said about, back to kind of raising prices a little bit here. is, so I kind of gravitated to this boutique agency approach, right? And I don't remember the terminology behind it. I read this somewhere. I don't know. You know, you read a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of videos. It came from somebody. Somebody else
probably in a meme credit. On TikTok. Yeah.
But it was this idea of choosing how many clients you want to be with, like, which speaks to what you're talking about here. So, like, let's say it's 12, maybe it's 15 for you, maybe it's 20 for you. And when you reach that cap, then you can start setting some rules. Like, okay, I don't want, I want all my clients need to be at least 50,000 revenue a year or something like that. But you're not getting rid of the first ones you had right away. You're still servicing everything you have. And the new client that comes in is going to be at that. And then you can say, okay, now I'm at 13. I'm going to go back to some of those ones that aren't paying me right now. Or, you know, aren't even in the neighborhood. And, you know, like you said, that's when you start to introduce them to the new pricing. And if they drop off, they drop off. But I love that idea of having that control and a kind of mechanism in place where it's just a natural thing. And you like you said, you're presenting this new pricing, this new packaging to the new people. And then eventually over time, you can, you know, kind of remove some of the older ones. Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, if people aren't paying you, you kind of alluded to it, you didn't say it right away, but like if they're late pays on a consistent basis, they're always going to be a late pay.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can replace them and then give them the ultimatum, you're not out if they just say, well, no, like this is the way it is. Right. The people who respect you are the people who pay you what you're worth when they're supposed to pay you. Okay. Those are the only people who are worth keeping around.
Yeah.
At any price. At any price.
Yeah.
If you're selling software and it doesn't cost you any more to have them around, then you can have those grandfather pricing. We have that for ours. I get that part. But when it comes to your services, your costs are going up because your cost of living is going up. Your cost of labor is going up. Your cost of goods is going up. That means that your prices have to go up. We increase our prices now every year, 3%, period. And everybody gets at least a 3% raise because of it. So I, as a business owner, am not making more money. I'm just keeping everybody on tilt with inflation.
Right.
Right. Okay. Because over a 10-year period, they're going to make 30% more if they don't get any raises. And we're going to be about 30% more in cost of living in 10 years. Right. So it's mathematics. Yeah. Either you're going to grow yourself broke because you can't say no to people, right? Or you're going to thrive with a great staff that knows you're there to take care of them because they're taking care of you through your clients.
Beautiful. We could be here all day.
And unfortunately, I do have to kind of wrap this up.
I know. Me too. So, but yeah, because we need to like dive it into like stuff. You just never know where it's going to go. But we haven't even talked about conversions and websites and have, you know, all this other stuff. But
well, I guess I'll have to come back.
You'll have to come back.
What you were telling me is we have to come back.
You'll have to come back. But let's land there. And this is some really, really good stuff. I appreciate you sharing that with us. If somebody wants to reach out, they want to, talk to you. Are you hanging out on the World Wide Web somewhere on some social media platform? They're going to go to the website.
Yeah. Check me out. Connect with me on LinkedIn and say that you heard me on this show. I'll connect with you. Just don't sell me anything right away. wait till you get to know me. And then if you want to get a free copy of my book, anybody who's listening to this show can go to ruleof26.com and get a free copy. I'll even sign it for you. All I ask you is to pay for the shipping and handling. That's it.
Nice. All right. Well, with that, thank you very much, Michael. Buzz.
Thank you.
Until next time, take care. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.